The night the sky went dark, the city did not scream. It held its breath. One satellite blinked out. Then another. Then 5 more. Not destroyed. Not burning. Just silenced. High above the clouds, something was moving, something that did not need lights. Down below, rain poured over Harbor 9, washing oil and blood into the gutters. The port never truly slept, but tonight it was quiet in the wrong way. Dockworkers whispered. Cargo cranes stood frozen mid-swing. Even the stray dogs had vanished. And beneath the oldest pier, under layers of rusted steel and forgotten tunnels, a vault door sealed since 1953 unlocked itself with a sound like a coffin opening. The Meridian Circle ruled this city the way gravity ruled the Earth, unseen, unquestioned, absolute. They did not posture. They did not tweet threats. They did not leave bodies in the streets unless a message needed carving into bone. They controlled shipping lanes, financial arteries, private security contracts, and every black market whisper that drifted through the docks. And for 70 years they honored the Pact. Victor Kane stood at the harbor's edge, coat collar turned up against the rain. He watched the sky where the satellites had vanished. He wasn't looking for wreckage. He was looking for patterns. A black sedan rolled to a stop behind him. No headlights. No engine noise, modified. The rear door opened. "Don Moretti wants you underground," the driver said quietly. Victor didn't answer. His eyes were still on the clouds. "Is it them?" the driver asked. Victor finally turned. His voice was calm, almost bored. "If it wasn't, the sky wouldn't be this quiet." The chamber beneath Pier 7 was lit only by candles. No electronics. No signals. Stone walls carved decades ago to shield conversations from listening ears, human or otherwise. Don Alessandro Moretti sat at the head of a long wooden table. Age had thinned him but not diminished him. His hands rested on a silver cane, carved with unfamiliar symbols. Around him stood the circle's captains. No one spoke. Then the air above the table shimmered. Not like a hologram flickering to life, but like reality thinning. A tall figure formed from fractured light. Its shape was almost human but elongated. Its eyes glowed faintly blue, like distant stars seen through deep water. The alien envoy did not greet them. It observed them. "You have violated the terms," it said. Its voice did not echo. It pressed into the room like pressure before a storm. Moretti did not stand. "We have honored every boundary." The envoy tilted its head slightly. "Your shipments exceeded permitted quantities. Your influence expands into sectors reserved." Victor's eyes narrowed. Reserved. This was not diplomacy. This was ownership language. "We expand within our world," Moretti replied evenly. "As agreed." Pause. A silence that stretched too long. Then the envoy spoke again. "The Combined believes humanity is becoming ambitious. Not aggressive. Not violent. Ambitious." Victor felt it then, not fear. Calculation. Ambition threatened hierarchies. "Are we being accused?" Victor asked calmly. The envoy's glowing eyes shifted to him. "You are being evaluated." The candles flickered. And just like that, the figure dissolved into nothing. No farewell. No compromise. Just absence. An hour later, Victor stood at Dock 42. Police sirens wailed in the distance, kept back by private security. The rain had thinned to a mist. 6 bodies lay arranged in precise symmetry near a shipping container. Meridian soldiers. Loyal men. Their chests were open, not mutilated but surgically altered. Embedded beneath their ribs were small metallic devices, pulsing faintly with blue light. Alien. Victor crouched beside one of the bodies. He didn't flinch. Didn't look away. "These weren't planted tonight," he said quietly. One of his captains frowned. "What do you mean?" Victor pressed a finger gently against the metal implant. It was fused with tissue. Peeled around. "They've been carrying these for weeks. A tracker. Or worse. Someone inside the circle had been marked, monitored, studied. Without knowing." Victor stood slowly. "This wasn't punishment," he said. "It was inventory." Back underground, tension fractured the air. Some captains demanded retaliation. Others warned restraint. Moretti remained silent for a long time. Finally he spoke. "The Pact was not peace," he said quietly. "It was survival." He looked at Victor. "You were a child when it was signed. You didn't see the ships in the sky." Victor's jaw tightened. "And what happens when survival turns into submission?" No one answered. Because everyone felt it now. The shift. The satellites hadn't gone dark as an attack. They had gone dark as a reminder. High above, something massive adjusted its orbit. Watching. Measuring. Waiting. Later that night, Victor stood alone on the rooftop of Meridian Tower. The city lights flickered uncertainly. Air traffic was grounded. News stations blamed solar interference. He didn't believe in coincidences. A faint movement in the clouds caught his eye, a distortion barely visible. Like heat rising from asphalt. Cloaked vessels. Not invading. Positioning. His phone vibrated once. Encrypted channel. A single message from an unknown source. The pact is void. Prepare for collection. Collection. Victor exhaled slowly. So that was it. Humanity had not broken the pact. Humanity had simply grown. And growth, to empires built on control, was rebellion. Behind him, far below the harbor, the ancient vault remained open, systems reawakening after decades of silence. Old engines stirring in saltwater graves. Victor looked back at the sky. If you're evaluating us, he murmured softly, you should know. His eyes hardened. We learn fast. Above the clouds, something shifted. And for the first time in 70 years, the pact was no longer protecting Earth. It was restraining it. By the third night, the city stopped pretending nothing was wrong. The air felt heavier. Signals lagged. Compasses drifted off true north for no reason anyone could explain. Fighter jets scrambled twice, both times returning with empty radar screens and shaken pilots. Something was up there. And it wasn't hiding anymore. Victor Kane stood inside Meridian Tower's surveillance room, watching 20 screens flicker between dock feeds, street cameras, and thermal scans of the upper atmosphere. Freeze that, he said quietly. On screen 17, a shape passed over the skyline. Not solid. Not fully visible. Just a distortion bending starlight. Enhanced contrast. The technician swallowed. That's the fourth pass in 2 hours. Victor nodded once. They're mapping us. Not attacking. Studying. Like predators circling a herd before deciding which animal limps. Down at Dock 42, the bodies had been moved. The implants removed and sealed in lead containers. But Victor couldn't shake what he'd seen. He stood in a private autopsy room now, staring at one of the extracted devices. It pulsed faintly blue, rhythm steady, like a heartbeat that wasn't human. How long? He asked the surgeon. The woman adjusted her gloves. Implanted approximately 6 weeks ago. Surgical precision beyond anything terrestrial. Activation window? She hesitated. 2 days ago. The night the satellites went dark. Victor's expression didn't change, but something inside him aligned. They didn't just plant trackers, he said softly. They waited. Waited for the right moment. Waited for leverage. That evening a message arrived. Encrypted. Routed through dead satellites. Signed with a symbol no human keyboard could produce. A meeting request. Location, St. Aurelius Cathedral, abandoned after a fire gutted its interior 20 years ago. Victor insisted on going alone. The cathedral smelled like ash and old rain. Moonlight filtered through shattered stained glass, painting the floor in broken colors. Pews lay overturned. The altar was cracked down the center. And in the silence between distant thunderclaps, something moved. The air shimmered. The envoy appeared again, taller this time. More defined. You requested clarity, it said. Victor didn't kneel. Didn't bow. You said we were being evaluated. Yes. For what? Pause. For correction. The word echoed through the hollow cathedral. You expanded operations into sectors designated for the Combine, the envoy continued. Off-world routes. Resource extraction. Influence. Victor's eyes hardened. Earth is ours. A faint tilt of the alien's head. Ownership is a fluid concept. There was again. Hierarchy. Control. You signed the pact, Victor said evenly. Mutual boundaries. The pact, the envoy replied, was a containment measure. Victor felt it then, the shift in tone. Not negotiation. Judgment. You are evolving unpredictably, the alien said. Your species adapts faster than models projected. That sounds like respect, Victor replied. It is concern. A sudden metallic click echoed behind him. Victor didn't turn. He already knew. Someone else was in the cathedral. Human footsteps. A betrayal heavy enough to bend the air. Gunfire erupted. Not bullets, but concentrated pulses of blue energy tearing through stone pillars. Victor dove behind fallen pews as the cathedral ceiling exploded inward. Thus, fire. Screams. The envoy vanished mid-chaos. And through the smoke, Victor caught a glimpse of a familiar silhouette retreating toward the side exit. Luca Moretti, the Don's adopted son. Victor escaped through the crypt tunnels beneath the cathedral, lungs burning, ears ringing. Above ground, the structure collapsed entirely. News outlets called it a gas explosion. Victor called it something else. A message. Back at Meridian headquarters, tension fractured the room. "He led you there?" one captain demanded. "I saw him," Victor said flatly. Moretti's face remained carved in stone. Luca would never. "He was there," Victor interrupted. Silence. The Don's hands tightened around his cane. "You think my son would invite alien enforcement into sacred ground?" Moretti asked quietly. Victor met his gaze. "I think someone wanted me dead." The room shifted uncomfortably. Because if Luca wasn't betraying them, then someone was framing him. Hours later, Victor stood alone in the tower's upper office. He replayed security feeds from before the cathedral meeting. There. Frame by frame. Anomaly. The meeting coordinates had been accessed from an internal terminal, encrypted, authorized at the highest level. Authorization key, Don Alessandro Moretti. Victor leaned back slowly. Either the Don had been manipulated, or he had made a decision. A decision rooted in fear. His phone buzzed again. Another anonymous message. A data file. Victor opened it. Intercepted alien transmission. Translated imperfectly but clear enough. Phase 2, human leadership removal. Restructure through compliant proxies. Compliant proxies. Victor understood immediately. The Combine wasn't just eliminating resistance. They were selecting replacements. On the screen, a final attachment loaded. A surveillance image. Meridian Tower rooftop. Timestamp live. Crosshairs centered on Victor's head. He didn't move. Didn't duck. Instead, he stepped closer to the window and looked up. High above, barely visible against the clouds, something shifted, massive and silent. A reminder. This wasn't street war. It wasn't territorial. It was psychological. Break the leadership. Install fear. Turn power into obedience. Behind him, the office door opened softly. Moretti entered. For a moment, neither man spoke. Then the Don said quietly, "We cannot win this." Victor turned slowly. "Win?" he repeated. "They're not asking for war," Moretti said. "They're demanding adjustment. And if we refuse?" Moretti's eyes were tired. Older than they had been yesterday. "Then they will remove us." Victor stepped closer. "Maybe that's the point." A long silence. Thunder rolled across the city. Finally, Victor said what neither man wanted to admit. "They're not afraid of our violence." He looked back toward the sky. "They're afraid of our ambition." Outside, another satellite flickered out. Not destroyed. Silenced. And somewhere above the clouds, the shadows tightened. The vault beneath Pier 7 had not been opened in 70 years. Salt water dripped from the ceiling like a slow countdown. Rusted pipes lined the walls. The air smelled of iron and old secrets. Victor Kane walked down the spiral staircase alone. Above him, the city trembled under alien surveillance. Below him, something older than the Pact was waking up. At the base of the staircase stood a steel door layered with mechanical locks. No digital interface, no wireless access. Purely analog. Built in an era that trusted steel more than code. Victor pressed his palm against a small biometric plate. A needle pricked his skin. Blood verification. The locks disengaged one by one. The door groaned open. Inside, the chamber was massive, carved directly into bedrock. Dust covered long-dead consoles. Rows of dormant screens waited in silence. And at the center of the room stood a circular command table engraved with a single symbol. A black sun rising behind Earth. Victor stepped forward. The system hummed faintly as emergency power surged through ancient circuits. Lights flickered. Screens awakened. Coordinates appeared, orbital positions. Fleet designations. His breathing slowed. This wasn't myth. It wasn't legend whispered between old capos. It was real. A voice echoed from behind him. "You weren't supposed to find this alone." Victor turned. Don Alessandro Moretti stood at the entrance, leaning on his cane. For the first time he looked smaller than the room. "You knew," Victor said quietly. Moretti nodded once. "The Pact required it." Victor's eyes narrowed. "Required what?" "That we bury our teeth." Silence filled the chamber. Moretti walked slowly to the command table, fingers brushing across its surface like a ghost touching a gravestone. "Before the Pact," he said, "they tried to control us openly. They moved ships into orbit. They dictated terms. Victor listened. And we responded, Moretti continued. The Don pressed a hidden switch. A holographic projection flared to life above the table. Black warships, human-made, rising from oceans, launching from underground silos, tearing through alien cruisers in orbit. The Obsidian Fleet. Victor felt the weight of it in his chest. You fought them, he whispered. We nearly broke them, Moretti replied. But not without cost. Entire cities were lost. Communications blacked out. Governments collapsed. Victor watched as footage showed alien vessels retreating beyond lunar orbit. And that's when they offered peace, Victor said. Containment, Moretti corrected. The hologram shifted to show diplomats shaking hands, human and alien. The pact was simple. We stop expanding beyond Earth's atmosphere. We suppress knowledge of the war. We disband the fleet. And in return? They allow us autonomy. Limited sovereignty. No open invasion. Victor turned slowly. You chained humanity. Moretti's eyes darkened. I saved it. Victor approached another console and began scanning archive transmissions. One file caught his attention, recently accessed. Timestamp, 2 days ago. Access ID, Luca Moretti. Victor's jaw tightened. Luca's been down here. Moretti didn't deny it. He believes war is inevitable. And you don't? The Don hesitated. I believe survival requires compromise. Victor activated the file. A recording played, Luca's voice urgent. They're not honoring the pact. Combine vessels are repositioning. They're not containing us, they're preparing to restructure us. The recording ended. Victor looked at Moretti. He's not betraying us, Victor said. He's trying to protect us. Moretti's grip tightened on his cane. He's young. He's right. An alarm suddenly pulsed across the chamber. External sensors triggered. Victor rushed to the main display. High-altitude scans showed 3 cloaked vessels shifting into visible orbit. Closer than before. Not hiding anymore. Testing boundaries. They're escalating, Victor said. Moretti closed his eyes briefly. If we activate the fleet, there is no going back. Victor stared at the holographic projection of dormant warships resting beneath ocean trenches and Arctic ice. How many? He asked. 37 operational. 12 heavy carriers. Weapons designed specifically for combined shielding. Victor exhaled slowly. They never dismantled them. We couldn't, Moretti admitted. We kept them asleep. The chamber lights flickered again. A new transmission cut through emergency channels. Alien encryption, but translated in real time by the Vault's old systems. Phase 2 initiated. Leadership removal protocol. Victor's phone vibrated simultaneously. A live feed from Meridian Tower Security. Armed figures, biomechanical, towering, breaching lower floors. The Combine had moved from surveillance to execution. They're not negotiating, Victor said quietly. Moretti looked at the screens showing alien cruisers aligning above the city. He looked tired. Defeated. War means extinction, the Don whispered. Victor stepped closer. No, he said evenly. Submission means extinction. The words hung heavy in the chamber. For decades, the Pact had kept humanity small. Contained. Predictable. But something had changed. The Combine hadn't attacked because humans were violent. They were attacking because humans were rising. Expanding. Learning. And evolution frightened empires built on control. Victor placed his hand over the fleet's activation core. Give me full access. Moretti didn't move. Outside, the first explosion shook the harbor. Dust fell from the ceiling. Another alert flashed. Combined boarding crafts descending toward key infrastructure. Victor's voice remained steady. They crossed the line. Moretti met his eyes. And in that moment, the Don understood something he had feared for 70 years. The Pact had not preserved humanity's strength. It had preserved its cage. Slowly, with trembling fingers, Moretti entered his master authorization code. The command table glowed brighter. Across the globe, hidden beneath oceans and ice, massive reactors began to stir. Engines dormant since the First War hummed faintly. In the darkness of the Mariana Trench, a colossal black hull shifted. On a frozen Arctic plateau, ice cracked as something enormous pushed upward from beneath. Orbit tracking screens lit up one by one. Fleet designation. Obsidian status. Awakening. Victor looked at the display. 37 icons blinking from red to amber. Not fully online. But rising. Above the city, alien cruisers adjusted formation. As if sensing it. as if realizing the cage door had just unlocked. Moretti exhaled slowly. We may have doomed us all. Victor's eyes never left the screen. No, he said quietly. We just reminded them. The final icon turned amber. And somewhere far beyond Earth's atmosphere, the Combine received a signal it hadn't seen in 70 years. Humanity was no longer contained. The first Obsidian warship broke the surface of the Pacific without a sound. No dramatic eruption. No towering wave. Just a black shape rising through moonlit water like something ancient deciding to breathe again. Across the planet, 36 more followed. And in orbit above Earth, the shadows shifted. The Combine had been watching. Now they were calculating. Victor Kane stood inside the underground fleet command chamber as the global tactical map filled with movement. Amber icons flickered into green one by one. Reactor cores stabilizing. Weapon grids charging. Hull integrity at 92% and climbing. Orbital contacts reacting, a technician reported. Combined vessels adjusting altitude. On the main screen, 3 alien cruisers separated into a defensive triangle formation. They weren't retreating. They were bracing. High above the atmosphere, Obsidian carrier Acheron pierced the cloud layer and accelerated upward on silent gravitic drives. Its hull absorbed light instead of reflecting it, a warship designed not for spectacle but for survival. As it cleared orbit, the alien cruisers decloaked fully for the first time. They were larger than expected. Organic curves fused with metallic exoskeletons. Surfaces pulsing faintly, like living tissue wrapped around artillery. Target locks detected, the technician said. Victor's voice remained calm. Hold fire. In space, silence swallowed everything. Then the first shot came, not from humanity. A lance of concentrated violet energy erupted from a combined cruiser, slicing toward Acheron. The human carrier rolled sideways with impossible precision. The beam grazed its flank, shields flaring but holding. Shields at 78%, came the report. Victor's eyes narrowed. They're testing response time. Return fire? He hesitated only half a second. Fire. From Acheron's ventral batteries, twin tungsten accelerators roared to life. 2 slugs, traveling at hypersonic velocity, tore through vacuum and struck the nearest cruiser. For a moment nothing happened. Then alien shielding rippled violently. Cracks of blue light spidered across its surface. And for the first time in 70 years, alien hull plating fractured under human design. Below, Harbor 9 was already burning. Combine enforcers, tall, biomechanical constructs, moved through Meridian territory with surgical brutality. Their weapons didn't spray bullets. They erased matter. Victor's comm unit crackled. Tower breach on levels 4 through 9, a captain shouted. We're losing ground. Luca's voice cut in next, steady despite the chaos. I've secured evacuation routes for civilians in Sector 12. But they're pushing toward headquarters. Victor glanced between orbit and ground feeds. 2 wars. One above. One below. And both designed to break leadership. Deploy street-level countermeasures, Victor ordered. Use EMP charges. Their armor is adaptive but not immune. On screen, Meridian fighters detonated pulse devices in narrow alleyways. Alien constructs staggered as their systems flickered. Human ingenuity. Fast adaptation. The Combine had underestimated that. In orbit, the second exchange came harder. 2 additional Obsidian destroyers joined Acheron, flanking the cruiser formation. Missile pods opened, not conventional explosives but gravitational distortion charges. They detonated near the enemy hulls, bending local space-time just enough to destabilize alien shield harmonics. The result was violent. 1 combined cruiser spun off axis, armor peeling away under tidal stress. From its ruptured side, debris spilled, some mechanical, some organic. Victor watched in silence. Blood in orbit. Not red, but glowing. Then the transmission arrived. It cut through every channel at once. The prime strategist of the Combine appeared on screen, taller than the envoy, features sharper, eyes colder. You were instructed to remain contained, it said. Victor stepped forward into frame. You were instructed to honor the Pact. The Pact was a probationary measure, the strategist replied. Your species has exceeded acceptable growth parameters. Growth isn't aggression, Victor said evenly. To empires, the alien answered, it is. Behind the strategist, more ships flickered into view. Reinforcements. Far beyond lunar orbit. Not yet engaged. Watching. Measuring escalation. Victor understood the message clearly. This wasn't extermination. It was correction. The Combine believed fear would reset humanity's ambition. You misunderstand us, Victor said quietly. The strategist's gaze sharpened. Clarify. Victor leaned closer. We learn from every strike. As if on cue, tactical alerts flashed. Obsidian fleet vessels were synchronizing targeting data in real time, adapting to alien firing patterns. Where the first volley had cost them shields, the second exchange cost the Combine armor. A destroyer slipped through the cruiser triangle and fired point-blank into a fractured hull seam. The alien ship ruptured completely. Fragments scattered across orbit, some burning as they fell toward atmosphere. The strategist did not react, but its eyes dimmed slightly. Escalation acknowledged, it said. Down below, Meridian headquarters shook as Combine enforcers breached the upper floors. Luca fought through smoke-filled corridors, dragging wounded soldiers toward reinforced exits. One construct cornered him near the executive chamber. Its weapon charged, humming with lethal energy. For a split second. Silence. Then a human sniper round pierced its cranial node. The construct collapsed. Luca looked up to see an old Meridian marksman reloading calmly. Still breathing? The man asked. Luca nodded once. Good, the marksman replied. Stay that way. Back in orbit, the battle slowed. Both sides assessing. Both sides damaged. Both sides capable of worse. The prime strategist spoke again. This engagement is no longer localized. Victor felt the weight of that. Behind the strategist, a distant formation shifted. Larger. Far larger than the cruisers. They will be informed, the alien said. They? Victor asked. But the transmission cut. Just like that. The remaining Combine vessels disengaged, sliding backward into higher orbit. Not routed. Not destroyed. Withdrawing deliberately. Testing complete. In the command chamber, silence settled. Reports poured in, civilian casualties limited. Fleet losses minimal. One cruiser destroyed. 2 damaged. Victor stared at the tactical map. They had won the exchange. But not the war. On a secondary screen, deep space sensors pinged something new. A signal transmitted outward from retreating Combined ships. Not retreat coordinates. A report. Destination, beyond mapped space. Victor exhaled slowly. They weren't the top, he murmured. Luca's voice came through the comm. Then who is? Victor looked up at the stars beyond the tactical display. And for the first time since the Pact, he felt something colder than fear. Recognition. The Combine hadn't come to conquer. They had come to evaluate. And now, they were sending the results home. The war did not end with an explosion. It ended with silence. The kind of silence that follows a gunshot in a cathedral. In orbit, debris drifted like frozen rain. Shards of alien hull burned slowly as they scraped the upper atmosphere. Below, the city's fires were being extinguished one building at a time. Humanity had survived the first strike. But survival was not victory. Victor Kane stood on the bridge of the obsidian carrier Acheron, Earth rotating beneath him in cold blue light. Status reports scrolled across tactical glass. 1 Combined cruiser destroyed. 2 critically damaged. Ground incursions repelled. Civilian zones secured. It should have felt like triumph. It didn't. Deep space sensors are still tracking outbound transmission, an officer reported quietly. Signal strength sustained. Victor didn't look away from the stars. They're not retreating, he said. They're reporting. On the surface, Meridian headquarters was a skeleton of concrete and smoke. Luca walked through what remained of the executive chamber. The ceiling had collapsed inward. Rain poured through broken floors, hissing against hot metal. At the center of the destruction lay Don Alessandro Moretti. Alive. Barely. Luca dropped beside him. You should have evacuated, Luca whispered. Moretti's breathing was shallow. Blood darkened his collar. I chose my ground, the old man said faintly. Luca swallowed hard. You chose wrong. Moretti managed a weak smile. No. I chose late. Silence filled the ruined room. The Pact, Moretti continued, struggling for breath, was never peace. It was fear. Luca's jaw tightened. You were trying to protect us. I was trying to delay them, Moretti corrected. But delay only works if you prepare. He gripped Luca's sleeve weakly. Do not shrink the world again. Those were his last words. Outside, sirens wailed. And somewhere above, humanity crossed a line that could never be uncrossed. Back in orbit, a new alert flashed. Mass signatures. Beyond lunar orbit. Victor stepped closer to the main display. The projection zoomed outward, far past the debris field, past the damaged Combine cruisers. There, faint but unmistakable, a formation. Not 3 ships. Not 5. Dozens. Larger than anything previously engaged. And they were not approaching fast. They were assembling. Watching. Calculating. The Prime Strategist reappeared on screen without invitation. Behind it, the distant fleet loomed like a wall of dark stars. You have demonstrated resistance capacity beyond projected parameters, the strategist said calmly. Victor's voice was steady. And you've demonstrated bad faith. The Combine is not the apex authority, the strategist replied. There it was. Confirmation. We are an enforcement arm. Victor felt something shift in his chest. Your middle management. The alien's eyes dimmed slightly. A simplification, it replied. Who do you report to? Victor asked. Pause. Longer than before. Assessment is ongoing. The transmission flickered, but before it vanished, the strategist added. You were contained for your own stability. Rapid ascension invites eradication. Then it was gone. The bridge remained silent. Officers exchanged uneasy glances. Humanity had defeated the enforcers. But enforcers meant hierarchy. Hierarchy meant command. And command meant something far worse was out there. Victor turned toward his crew. Status of fleet readiness? 70% operational. Ammunition reserves at 63. Reactor stability nominal. And civilian evacuation protocols? Activated worldwide. Victor nodded slowly. He opened a secure channel to global leaders, governments who had once agreed to bury the fleet. Faces appeared across the display. Tired. Frightened. One of them spoke first. You've escalated this beyond containment. Victor met their eyes. No, he said evenly. They escalated when they decided we were property. Silence answered him. Then another leader asked, can we win? Victor didn't lie. I don't know. He stepped closer to the viewport, Earth glowing beneath them like something fragile and defiant at the same time. But I know this. He looked back at the distant alien armada forming in the dark. If we shrink now, we become manageable. Hours passed. The alien fleet beyond the moon did not advance. They adjusted positions. They measured obsidian trajectories. They scanned weapon yields. They were studying humanity the way a predator studies fire for the first time. Not rushing. Learning. On the surface, news networks began reporting orbital anomalies. Citizens filmed streaks of burning debris and whispered about war. They had no idea how close extinction had come. Or how close it still was. Luca joined Victor on the bridge. Moretti's gone, he said quietly. Victor nodded once. He believed he was saving us. Luca stared at the massive fleet in the distance. Maybe he did. For a while. Victor folded his hands behind his back. We crossed their line tonight. Luca shook his head. No, he said softly. They crossed ours. Silence stretched between them. The sensor officer suddenly stiffened. New transmission detected. Origin, unknown. Not Combine. The screen flickered. A different symbol appeared. Older. Sharper. Colder. The message translated slowly. Species, human. Status, uncontained. Evaluation, escalate. No threats. No countdown. Just classification. Victor felt the weight of it settle. The Combine had tested them. But something else owned the test. Something patient enough to wait 70 years. And now, it was paying attention. The alien armada beyond the moon shifted slightly forward. Not attacking. Just enough to make the message clear. You have been seen. Victor straightened. Signal the fleet, he ordered calmly. 37 warships adjusted formation around Earth like a black crown. Engines glowed softly. Weapons aligned. Humanity was no longer hidden. No longer contained. Above them the greater empire watched. And in the silence before the next decision, every star felt closer than it should. The line had been crossed. The only question left was, who would survive the consequences?